Hi everybody, I'm meteorologist David Paul. This is the KHOU 11 Weather Center in Houston, Texas, and this is your Thursday evening Atlantic tropical update for October the 14th, 2021. I'm skipping ahead of November. I've got the holiday season on the brain. So far this season, we've had 20 named systems, including Victor. We've not had Wanda yet. It looks unlikely, at least over the next 5 days, that Wanda is going to form, although we do have a tropical wave in the Atlantic basin. We're at the secondary peak of hurricane season. There are actually two peaks in hurricane season. One happens on September 10th, and then another one happens right around October 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. And that has everything to do with these cold fronts that begin to push off the east coast of the U.S. Quite often they'll produce tropical systems. However, at the moment, things are relatively quiet out there. And that's also why if you're going to get tropical development in the month of October, most likely it happens here, western Atlantic off the east coast of the U.S. or in the Caribbean or the Gulf. That's simply because we've got warmer sea surface temperatures out there. But also quite often you'll get these cold fronts that begin to come off the east coast. Quite often they'll kick all the way out here into the open Atlantic, even into the Caribbean, the tail end of them. And quite often on the tail end of these troughs, these frontal boundaries, you'll get circulation and a tropical system will form. And if they form, quite often they move north as those troughs are beginning to come in and being picked up by the upper level winds, these systems. And there is a spot that we're watching out here, but it's in the Atlantic. The Caribbean and the Gulf are quiet as a dormouse. There's just nothing going on out here tropical-wise, so that's good. This spot here in the open Atlantic, only a 10% chance for development there. We'll go over that here in just a minute. The rest of the open Atlantic, we've got a broad area of low pressure at the mid-levels, not showing any signs of tropical development. It's a mid-level system. Tropical storms are surface-based systems. Scattered showers in the ITCZ, but there's just nothing of any consequence going on out there. And since we've been watching the Pacific the past several days, I thought we'd check. And the eastern Pacific is quiet as well. Got a couple little spots of scattered showers, but nothing that's showing any signs of tropical development in the Pacific. And as we learned from Pamela, they can come in and impact weather across the United States. And in fact, Texas had flash flooding last night and Thursday morning from the remnants of Pamela, all the moisture coming in. That's now dissipating across Texas. Okay, so back to the open wave in the open Atlantic. And I say a wave, we actually have a little tropical swirl here, but it is completely exposed. In other words, all the deep convection, the thunderstorm activity is displaced off to the east of the swirl. You've got to get thunderstorm convection right over the center of that surface swirl to get any type of tropical development going. And we're just not seeing that, and that is because, again, of the upper level winds. Here's our little spot trying to develop, but look at the upper level winds just cutting right across it. Tropical system is not going to develop in that type of upper level wind regime, and that is because, as we've talked about, these tropical systems are vertically stacked surface-based systems. They've got to be stacked straight up and down through the vertical column of the atmosphere to get that rotation going, to get the warm air coming in at the surface, entering that surface rotation, spiraling up, releasing its energy as it goes up through the atmosphere, and then the exhaust out the top. And that's all got to be undisturbed. Sort of like if you take your cup of coffee in the morning and you stir it gently, you get a nice little swirl going, and if you gently lift the spoon out, that swirl will keep going for a while. But even just blow across that swirl. Do this with your cup of coffee in the morning, and it will disrupt the entire circulation. Well, that's exactly what those upper level winds are doing. They're disrupting that swirl, that circulation, by blowing across the top, tilting everything over, disrupting the rotation as it tries to come up through the vertical column, and storms can be ripped apart or never form in that type of a regime, and that's what we've got out there. Computer models, here's our little tropical swirl. GFS and Euro both have the swirl, but again, nothing of significance developing, and it races off to the northeast, kicks a little wind and rain into the Azores as we head into Saturday and Sunday, and that's about it on this tropical system, what there is of it. There's something else on the map that I'm keeping an eye on. You see the big set of isobars all connected here. This is a big ridge of high pressure. This is surface high pressure, which is going to dominate the eastern half of the U.S. over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and bring beautiful fall weather from Minneapolis and Toronto and Chicago all the way down to Miami, where they'll have lows in the 60s and 70s across the southern Florida peninsula. That will be nice. We'll get a taste of fall across the deep south because of that. More on that in just a minute. And we've got this El Nino advisory that's been issued by NOAA today. So what is El Nino? I said El Nino. La Nina. La Nina advisory. So it's just the opposite of an El Nino. El Nino is a warming of the waters in the eastern Pacific, and that warming of the waters in the eastern Pacific from an El Nino can have impacts on how the jet stream moves. It actually helps to pull that jet stream further south and can make for a very active weather pattern across the United States during an El Nino winter. A La Nina winter is exactly the opposite. And what's happening is at the surface you have trade winds that are blowing east to west, and they're blowing a little bit stronger than normal. So what they're doing is they're blowing all the warm air at the surface way over here into the central and western Pacific Ocean. So the water surface temperatures way out here are warming. And as it displaces that warm air and pushes it west, you've got upwelling from deep underneath the surface of the ocean. That water's cold and it's bringing it up. And that's what's making the ocean temperatures cooler than normal in the equatorial eastern Pacific. This also has major influences on marine life. These cooler waters are much more rich in nutrients, so you get much more marine life building up during a La Nina. They like the cold water, so you get lots more tuna, mackerel, salmon, and all the other associated marine life that go along with that. And that also stretches up the Baja. Southern California should have abundance of marine life for anybody out there keeping track of that this winter time. So La Nina advisory has been issued by NOAA today. Cooler Pacific Ocean temperatures in the equatorial eastern Pacific. This can influence winter climate in the U.S. Now, I'm going to show you how it's expected to influence the climate in the United States. But remember, this is a general forecast. We're speaking in generalities here, in statistics. Statistically, when we've had La Nina winters, this is the pattern we've seen across the lower 48. The jet stream, it dips, but we don't get nearly as much of these big dips that you'll get during an El Nino winter sometimes. An El Nino winter has a much more southern track of the jet, and that can make things very wet across the deep south, but during a La Nina, jet stream's a little further north. So in general, you get a warmer and drier weather pattern across the deep south, a little wetter here in the mid-Ohio Valley. And because you've got the jet stream coming off the Pacific here near Vancouver and Portland, this can be very stormy, wet, snowy, rainy, windy for the Pacific Northwest and Western Canada, Vancouver up through British Columbia. That's in general. However, that doesn't mean you can't have huge Arctic outbreaks. And I bring this up because, okay, La Nina, this is the forecast, looking like we're going to have a La Nina winter. Well, last winter, 2021, we were in the middle of a La Nina. And you may remember we had a huge Arctic outbreak in February of 2021, record smashing cold across the center part of the country all the way down into Texas and even into Mexico. That was 2021. Other cold snaps that come to mind over history, December 1989, major cold snap, brutal cold across the middle part of the country. Houston dropped down to 7 degrees. That was a La Nina winter in 1989, and we ended up with one of the worst cold snaps in history. Another big one during a La Nina winter, where it's supposed to be warmer and drier across the deep south, would be 1983, below freezing in Houston for 4 days in a row. I know I'm giving all these Houston statistics, but to get it that cold in Houston for that long, for 4 days in a row, the rest of the middle part of the country is brutally cold. So even though we've got a La Nina weather pattern, which in general means the northern branch of the jet is further north, it doesn't mean that at times during this coming winter we can't have big dips in the jet stream that allow for brutal winter cold and Arctic outbreaks. So where are we right now? Very mild across the southern and eastern United States on this Thursday evening, the 14th. It's chilly in the mountains, Casper, Wyoming at 34, Denver 37. They got some fresh snow in the Rockies up there, the higher elevations. We go up north into Canada, Alaska, up above the Arctic Circle. Alert is at 1 degree. That's the cold spot on the map right now. Kugluktuk's 37, Barrow 26. So not bitter cold. And then we keep an eye on what's going on across Siberia, because quite often if Canada, Alaska, and the lower 48 are going to have a bitter cold Arctic outbreak, it begins here in Siberia. So how cold is it here? Well, it's cold. Aliskerovo is 9 degrees. This is Fahrenheit. Severny is 2 below zero. Again, this is Fahrenheit. Chersky 16, Bilibino's at 11 degrees. There's nothing, nothing 25, 30, 40 below over here right now, but it is chilly. And at the moment, looking at the upper air pattern, again, here's Siberia. Zoom out, these are the upper level winds, 34,000 feet. There's no mechanism right now to bring the cold air here across into Alaska and Northwest Canada and the Klondike. All the energy is to the south. What we would want to see in this jet pattern is this making a big ridge up through Siberia and then back into Alaska and Western Canada. That would be a signal that we're about to get that Siberian air into North America, but that is not the pattern right now. And it doesn't look like it's going to be the pattern for the next couple of days at least. This is going into Sunday. Maybe a little ridging here, but there's really no, you'd want to see a big rainbow right up in there. You'd want the big rainbow in here, and right now the rainbow is over the Pacific Ocean, which is a warm and wet pattern for the United States and Canada. And as we look at this jet pattern going into Tuesday of next week, so we're going to go out into the future here, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we've got a little snowstorm in the Rockies again, but in general what I see is a zonal pattern. In general, it's west to east across the U.S., northern branch, west to east across the U.S., southern branch. That is not a cold weather pattern for the United States. That is a mild and at times wet weather pattern because it would bring moisture off the Pacific Ocean for the United States. So that's Tuesday. We go into Wednesday, Thursday, we get a little rain across the Great Lakes, snow in southern Canada, not far from Toronto, rainy across Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. That's Thursday of next week. But again, just looking at this, it is still zonal. That's not a cold weather pattern. If this was going to be a cold weather pattern, what I would want to see is something like this coming right out of Alaska, Western Canada, and then right down the front range of the Rockies in a big dip like that. And we just don't have that right now. So right now, computers, jet stream pattern is a mild jet stream pattern. And we go into Saturday of this is not this coming weekend, but next weekend, the 23rd, and still overall it's west to east. Getting these dips off the west coast, so rainy up and down the west coast of the U.S., snowy Hudson Bay, not out of normal there. We do get some ridging. That would be a little warm up into Western Canada, but this trough, it's rather shallow. So at the moment, it is kind of a La Nina-like setup with the jet stream. That's why I wanted to show this to you. In general, it's playing out statistically what you'd want to see, what you'd expect to see with La Nina. The northern branch of the jet taking that dip, but not making a big dip down to the Gulf of Mexico and allowing a big Arctic outbreak. We go out 10 days, the 24th of October, Sunday. Still west to east. Little Pacific storm coming in, bringing some rain to the desert southwest. So I want to go back up and let's just take a look. Do we have anything cross-polar as we look 10 days out? No, we don't. Even 10 days out, that jet stream is still over the Pacific. I don't see any big rainbow of jet stream activity coming across Siberia into Alaska. So at the moment, for at least the next 10 days, this is a relatively mild jet stream pattern for the United States. Snowfall forecast a little bit in the northern Rockies and across Canada, northwest Canada, northern Canada. Alaska gets some snow. Hudson Bay, that low that forms here in a few days, is going to produce some snow here, eastern portions of Canada as well, but nothing out of the ordinary here. So let's look at the temperature forecast. So we go into Friday. This is Friday morning at 7 a.m. And although it's chilly in the Rockies, mild for the East Coast, there's nothing bitter cold. And I want you to take a look at this. So here's Casper, Wyoming. So that's a low of 20 in Casper. That's going to be Friday morning. And we're going to go forward here many, many days, but I want you to keep an eye and remember that's the lowest temperature on the map and it will be the lowest temperature we see on the map for the next several days. This is Saturday morning's low temperatures. Beautiful fall weather across most of the country. New Orleans wakes up at 69, Shreveport 57, Denver 35, Casper at 33 now, not at 20. Pittsburgh 64. We go into Sunday morning. This is gorgeous fall weather across almost the entire country. Still 71 in Miami, but Tampa wakes up at 66. Y'all will love that. 40s across the Great Lakes. It's chilly, but nothing bitter cold. That's Sunday morning. Monday morning, beautiful fall weather, 40s and 50s. Tuesday morning, a little warm up across the middle part of the country. Gorgeous fall weather. Wednesday morning, 50s, 60s, even 70s now back in New Orleans, Brownsville, 30s in the mountains. But no temperature, and I checked through all these temperature forecasts, nothing drops back to 20 degrees or colder. This is Thursday, next Thursday, October 21st, so we're 7 days out. Next Friday, 8 days out. That's another gorgeous fall morning across the United States, but the point is, nothing too bitter cold. No record cold, no big snowstorms. Very La Nina-esque, at least starting this fall pattern going into winter with our La Nina advisory issued today. Okay, that's where we stand right now. Questions, comments, hit me up on social. I read your comments below. I appreciate you leaving them. We'll see you tomorrow for another update.